firstly, who moaned about it being too hot? Because summer has just suddenly turned off. And secondly, how have I had this horse for 17 years already? So yes, August 26th marked 17 years of owning this one, and I don't know, I can't even begin to put into words what this horse means to me. There really will never be another horse like her. We grew up together. I was 15 when she came to me. I'm now 32. So we really have actually grown up together. She's been there for all the boyfriend tears, all the life dramas. She's moved around the country with me while I tried to discover what I wanted to do for a job. She's just never faltered, and she's never not been there in my life, which is just crazy to sort of think about. And she's never ever once said no. She has just gotten on with it, and people say you can't put it into words, and that's probably because there are no words for it. But I am going to do my best to tell you our story. Okay, I have come home to finish filming this, and I've made myself a cup of tea because the weather has really turned and it is absolutely peeing it down, and you aren't going to hear me. But I have made notes on my phone because it is impossible to try and remember 17 years of things that you have basically done with a horse. So I'm going to start, August the 26th, 2006. That is the day that Dublin came to me. She was 6 years old. I was actually 18 months into cancer treatment for leukemia, so it's basically cancer of the blood. The treatment is supposed to be like 2 years, 2 months for girls, but I think mine ended up going on for about 3 years. I'd had a pony, a beautiful little Welsh pony. I unfortunately don't have any photos. I think they're like in my mum's loft or house, which is a shame, but she was a grey Welsh cross, and I just outgrew her whilst I was poorly. She was being ridden and looked after by family friends, and they actually kept her. The last I heard from them, she was 38, but I have been too scared to get in touch with them for a few years because I know they're going to inevitably tell me what I don't want to hear. I was doing some really good pony club stuff with her, and I lost my last few years with that pony due to being ill, and it's something that annoys me to this day. I'm really gutted about it. But 18 months into treatment, I was just desperate for a horse again. So along came Dublin. She was over from Ireland. Like I said, she was 6. We didn't really know much about her, probably not as much as we should have. Didn't know how much she had done. She had obviously been sat on and ridden. She was always golden to handle on the ground. She is just so polite. Ridden wise, she was fine. We hacked loads, but when you started to ask her to do any form of hard work, she used to bronk you off. She'd bronk and bronk and bronk until you were unbalanced, and then she'd whip a shoulder. I mean, she got countless instructors off. I was very overhorsed. So our first 5 years together were pretty much just kind of navigating the world. I was still having treatment, so she wasn't in big regular work, but we did lots of hacking, like I said. We went out and did some fun rides. We went and did like little local shows. I kind of was into my show jumping with my first pony, so I tried to carry that on with Dublin. And when I look back at the photos, I can't help but laugh because that horse is in all the fluffy boots, the grackle, all the gear, no idea. And at this point, I could barely ride one side of her, let alone thinking I looked like Ellen Whittaker. I mean, every kid, I suppose, goes through that stage. But we did do some show jumping, and I did dabble into some showing. The photos again are brilliant. I'm in a navy jacket, she's in like a really forward cut jump saddle, and I was putting her just in like hunter classes. So that's kind of how those first few years went. I also kind of went through every teenager's thing of boys and just, you know, all that drama, and Dublin, bless her heart, was always there to pick up the pieces when it didn't go right. The amount of boy tears that this horse has wiped away for me is just incredible. She's just always been that kind of rock. And also, like, with the cancer treatment, I did suffer a little bit of depression towards the end and after my treatment, just because obviously it completely took away my childhood, and I couldn't get jobs because I didn't have any GCSEs, and just everything was a real big struggle. So she was always there for me, like, all through that. I would just go and sit in the field with her and do nothing. When I was going through like a bout of depression, I didn't actually want to ride. I just would sit in the field together, and it did get really bad at one point that I did put her up for sale. She was up for sale for like a month. No one wanted to come and see her, let alone even ring me about her, which I'm really, really grateful for, because about a month later I snapped out of it and took the advert down everywhere. I panicked that I was like, no, she can't go anywhere. So that was like a little midlife crisis. But I started getting regular lessons with a really, really lovely instructor, and we started going out and doing dressage and all this sort of stuff, and we tried a little bit of eventing. I was kind of discovering that Dublin didn't really like eventing. And she was brilliant at show jumping, but she was always very slow. She didn't really like being pushed out of a rhythm. We just sort of ended up doing it for fun throughout the years. I think the best thing I ever did with her was she went to Cricklands for the Championship of Great Britain show, and we also went to Hickstead, basically just for a riding club event, but I got to jump the Hickstead famous planks. So yeah, that was all a bit later on, so I will get to that. But originally when I got Dublin, she lived with one of my friends. They had their own land, and she kind of did like a little bit of buying and selling, and I got involved and helped, and we stayed there for the first, I believe, 2 years. And then we moved with my parents. We moved to a little village near Winchester, and there was a yard literally at the bottom of the road. You could see it from the house. I actually ended up doing a big stint in hospital during the move, and I was just gutted because I was so excited about the fact that I could see my stable from my house, and you know, I could walk down the road. But the yard was lovely. It was a polo yard, so we had an arena, a walker, a canter track, and I made some really lovely friends there. But then I met a boy, and I loaded Dublin up, and we moved to Cirencester, and we went to a lovely yard called Summer House. Now, it's not the big venue that you may know. It was just a lovely yard. Made some absolutely wonderful friends there. And this is kind of where I really started to crack on with Dublin. I, again, found a really, really good instructor. And it's also where I started YouTube. So this was 2011, 2012, towards like 2014. So back then YouTube, equestrian YouTube, used to just be videos put to music and like montages, but I mean, they looked like they were filmed on a potato. Some of mine are actually still on my channel. The best one being when Dublin threw me off cross country at Boomerang. But there is a video of that still on my account. So if you want to go and watch it, if you can bear the god-awful quality of the footage, that is there. But yeah, this yard is kind of where I really started cracking on. I had friends that had transport. I ended up buying my first horse box, and we went off and did cross country, farm rides, sponsored rides. We went and did some showing. We were doing more show jumping. And because Dublin wasn't great at the cross country, someone actually recommended that we go out hunting. So we did about 2 years of hunting with the VWH. It was all legal. I'm just going to clarify that. And actually my favourite story is I jumped my very first and very last hedge on Dublin. It looked about 3 foot from the takeoff, but the drop was much bigger. And as I landed, I punched her in the wither and broke my hand. So I managed to break my hand without falling off. She absolutely loved it. However, I did have to stop the hunting because we realised that when I got back, the mud fever problem I was having and the pus and the problems it was causing led on to her diagnosis for her hyperallergenic skin. So unfortunately, the bacteria in mud is one of the biggest things she's allergic to. So, and especially clay mud. So I couldn't be going across country and sort of taking her on all these different wet muds. It was just causing so many problems. So unfortunately we had to stop that. The confidence of venting also never came. So yeah, that was just a chapter in our life that we thoroughly enjoyed, but unfortunately we had to stop and it wasn't for us. But yes, it was with these girls that I went off and did sort of more show jumping events, and I really loved jumping Dublin. And the whole issue with her being slow, someone said to me that if she doesn't like being pushed out of her rhythm for speed, why don't you try working hunter? So I put Dublin in her very first working hunter class. She won it and I was like, oh my god, this is a little bit of me. I'd bought my first tweed, doing all of the grooming and yeah, the working hunter round, just being able to go around at our own pace and jump all the fences. I'd found my calling. Unfortunately, not long after that first show, I broke up with said boy, and therefore at the end of 2014, I ended up moving back home. I put Dublin back on the yard that she was on, the polo yard, and she was back at the bottom of my drive, and we just picked up the pieces and we carried on. So yeah, she obviously was an absolute saint to be there for me all through that, and I decided that by now she was actually 15 years old, or 14 or 15 years old, and I just felt like I hadn't done a lot with her. So I really cracked on with the showing. I discovered the ESUK Championships, which is the kind of unaffiliated championship that Arena UK hold every year, and we also went off and did some of the Sunshine Tour at Hickstead. So I got to jump at Hickstead, did all the working hunters, was doing all of the ridden hunter qualifiers, and we just had the best time. I think we really did discover that like showing and working hunter was our thing basically. So this is where I'm really gutted that I actually stopped doing YouTube, because I don't have any video footage of my working hunter rounds. I just have all of these pictures, and it's a shame because we jumped some mega tracks. There was a course I remember that had running water under the bridge. It was like a little water feature. Everyone was stopping at it, and I don't even think Dublin knew it was there. She was just legendary. I think if I pointed her at someone's car, she'd have just gone, yeah, okay, I can jump there, that's fine, like, no problem, mum. She just was brilliant, and I think that's why she did so well. I think she did workers from 2014 till about 2019, and I think she had 4 or 8 faults throughout her whole entire working hunter career. Literally, when I say she owes me nothing, there's nothing that that horse would ever not do for me. So she's just a legend. Now, we didn't discover veterans until about 2016, 2017. I remember one of the first veteran classes I did was a qualifier to go to the Sunshine Tour Hickstead event, and that's kind of like where I discovered it. The lower levels back then, the unaffiliated, didn't really have rules, so I was still like going in spurs and doing my big gallop and things like that. But I really enjoyed the veteran series because Dublin, other than working hunter, didn't really fit into like ridden hunter or a cob or anything like that. So having another class that we could do was brilliant, and I kind of caught that bug, and we did an awful lot more of the veteran things, and just the working hunters. So in 2018, I submitted all of Dublin's documentation, photos and passports over to the Veteran Horse Society and the SSADL, which is Senior Showing and Dressage Limited. And I thought, right, let's do this. This is the first time I'd ever like affiliated within anything, so I felt pretty cool. I thought, you know, we'd gone up a little bit a level. And one of the biggest events I have like ever done is I took Dublin to Royal Windsor Horse Show. So I'd gone to Royal Windsor as a spectator for years. We used to live quite close to it. So when I found out I could ride there, I just was ecstatic. It pretty much is one of the reasons I did join the SSADL. So off we went. We had the best time. Dublin still didn't like the fact that we couldn't gallop in the veteran classes, and therefore in our individual show she did kick out, and it kicked the like advertisement board on the side of the arena. So yeah, they're really big on manners. So we didn't actually get placed. The class went on for, I think it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes as well. The stewards were handing water around to everyone and to the horses. So, but it was just the best experience. I would definitely like to take her back. I think when she gets to about 25 and she's in the SSADL's like older group range, I will probably take her back. But I have to admit, that's the last SSADL event I did do. Just gonna put it out there and say they're not as polite as the VHS, so it kind of put me off. But we had joined the VHS and I went off and I was doing my areas, trying to get my regionals. I think I've said before, she's always been brilliant at her area qualifiers and then never really her regionals. So for the rest of 2018, I went off and just did all of our normal championships, the ESUK, the Sunshine Tour, and I also took her to the Veteran Horse Society Championships. You can go as a non-member and you can go and do all the normal classes. You don't have to qualify for the Supremes. So I was putting her in the Working Hunters and just normal classes. That is actually the year that Dublin said to me she was struggling with the jumping. We had no idea what her history for in Ireland was. I had for the first time medicated her hocks, I think like the winter before, so they were kind of starting to wean off. And like I said, she'd had 8 faults over her whole entire career, and one of them was at this weekend. She just clattered through the first fence. I then had to encourage her into the second, and I thought it was nerves, and then I turned the corner around to like a really simple upright, and I had to really kick her. And I had just this really half-hearted jump, so I retired her. I came out of the class and I actually then retired her from jumping fully. Brad had come with me. It was one of the first big championships he'd ever watched, and unfortunately that is what happened. But you know, it's horses. You can't, when they tell you they're done, they're done. Like I said, she's not a horse that has ever said no to me before, so I just knew. She wasn't lame, she felt incredible, she just had enough. We had been jumping some quite big courses, some quite big tracks, and we did it quite a lot. So when she said no, I just said, that's fine, you do not need to do that anymore. She was still really enjoying her flat classes, so I wasn't worried. It was sad that she wasn't jumping anymore, but you know what, that was it, that was the time, and she'd had enough. But luckily, that's also the year that I met Rebecca, RJR Designs, the girl who makes the concourse dresses, and I hired a dress for £40, and it's the most expensive £40 I've ever spent because I was then 3rd in that class, and I'm pretty sure before I'd even got off I was ordering my own dress. So I just thought to myself, look, if we can't go to the shows and do any more Working Hunters, then we're going to prance around in a dress and pretend to be princesses, because it's just the best thing I'd ever discovered. I was so pleased I'd met Rebecca, and yeah, well, as you all know, the rest is history. So that winter my relationship with Brad kind of carried on, and the Christmas I packed up Dublin once again and we moved to Stafford. I remember it being quite funny because the house I was renting was being sold and I couldn't really afford anywhere else on my own. And Brad joked, you know, come to Stafford, come live up there with me and we'll buy a house up there. It's so much cheaper. And I said, the thing is though, if I move up, it will take me time for my business to build up because I'm a dog groomer. And I said, you know, I can't afford to pay for livery and all that sort of stuff. And that's where Brad announced, oh, don't worry, we have stables. I mean, failed to mention that previously. So there I was, bunging my stuff into the horse box. Don't ask me twice, we were off. So yes, it's 2019 and Dublin is now living on the yard that you guys all should know by now. The agreement was that if she lived there, then we looked after the place. And I am gutted we did not take before photos because the work we have done on this yard is insane, even down to putting in the new arena. But anyway, I now have my own concours dress and I was going off and doing as many concours shows as I could, and 2019 is also the first year, I believe, that I went to Equifest. So I was able to fill my summer with hacking out across Cannock Chase and doing all the Equifest qualifiers, and Brad, bless his heart, fully embraced horsey life. He came and did the VHS qualifiers with me and we went off to just kind of explore the area. I didn't really know the area very well, so it was difficult to find the right shows. But luckily I did have like Equifest and VHS to keep us busy really. 2019 is also the first year I ever had a brand deal. So I had Derby House, who unfortunately is no longer a company. They sent me out my first ever like gifted item, which was a rug. And I loved it. I still have it and I love it. I really love it. And it led on to a really big relationship with them. We were lucky enough to do lots of photo shoots with those guys, and I am just beyond gutted because I'd been using Derby House since the day I had Dublin. Her first ever rug came from Derby House. It was the only brand that fitted her really. So yeah, I was gutted that they stopped, but that was our first year of doing anything like social media, which was really, really good. We then, of course, all had 2020, which, as we all know, lockdown. And I was so worried. Dublin was obviously 20 years old now, and I was really worried I was going to lose my final years with her, like I had done with Misty. So being a bit older and not competing and not going out and about, a lot of people say that veterans just deteriorate when they stop work effectively. And it was a huge worry for me. We just did lots of hacking over the chase, lots of just chilling out together in the field. I did actually end up comfort eating and putting on a stone, so I stopped riding for a little bit because I just felt that it wasn't fair on her to be getting older and having to carry more weight than what she was used to. But it's also the year I started YouTube again. So of course, in all the boredom, I was watching a lot of YouTube and I discovered all of like the girls that obviously do it very, very well, VE Squad and all that. And in order to sort of like and subscribe to the videos, I had to log into my account. And in doing so, I found all of those videos I told you about that were filmed on a potato, and it was wonderful. I absolutely loved watching them back. And again, I was gutted that I ever stopped because I didn't have anything from Dublin's working hunter career or from when we were going out and doing things at Hickstead and all that. So I was really, really gutted and vouched that I would continue to do YouTube now, just so that I've got all of that. Like, YouTube's not going anywhere. It's on the internet for years and years to come, so it's a good thing to be able to have. But anyway, as the summer went on, lockdown slowly lifted and I just went off and did some dressage and riding club clinics. It is also the year I met Charlie and Ali, because some of us have been chatting in lockdown and we all went on a horsey holiday together, and that is how we all met. So 2021, you guessed it, we're still showing, we're still doing YouTube. Most of this, if you've subscribed for a while, or maybe you've gone back and watched some videos, you can kind of see everything that we got up to in 2021. This was also the year that I kind of felt like I was at my happiest. I was in a good relationship. I had some amazing friends. People do say that like your late 20s, early 30s are your best years, or your 30s are your best years, or whatever. It's true. I've just got such a wonderful friend base, all pretty much through horses or through Instagram. The Concours girls, then I've got Charlie and Ali. It's just, yeah, I just really suddenly finally felt like I was in my place. Dublin's really happy and sound, and everything was all good. We were getting good results out showing, and yeah, I think after such a turmoil kind of start in life, or like in our life together, obviously me being poorly and not really doing a lot with Dublin because I had no idea how to ride this poor animal, it's led on to just, yeah, brilliant. I can't fault anything now. Last 2 years have pretty much just been the same. 2021, 22 and 23 is pretty much all in the YouTube bank, so you can go and just watch and catch up. The best thing obviously leading to Dublin being able to be my bridesmaid. I just think that it made sense, and everyone said the same thing. They were like, oh, are you not riding her down the aisle? You're not riding her? And I said, I don't need to ride her because obviously I ride in dresses all the time, but she still needed to have a huge part in the day, and she's been there for every single milestone in my life. I'm trying not to cry. So to walk down the aisle as my bridesmaid was just, I don't know, it's just mental. It's mental that she was there. In true Dublin style, she broke out the night before the wedding and ate a lot of grass, and therefore had a grass belly and a food coma. So she slept through the entire ceremony, the drinks hour and the photos. So my favourite photo we're actually going to send to an artist to draw, so that they can draw Dublin's ears forward, and Ziggy had a little bow tie on that you couldn't see in the picture, so I'm going to get her to include that as well. But oh my god, it was probably the most amazing thing having her there. And then she came out in the evening as well when my kind of like evening guests arrived, and we had a photo of everyone that I'd ever met from horses, and there must have been 30 people in that photo, and it's just incredible that that one horse has brought and created effectively what is my life now. All of my friends, all of my best memories, they're all down to her. She's involved in one way or another. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. I will be sharing our wedding video, so don't worry, you're not going to miss out on that. I can't not share that. I can't wait to see it. I will try and get that out pretty much as soon as we get it. I do have family, obviously, everyone I need to share it with first, but I will get that out because, oh my god, I can't wait to see it. It's just so amazing. Oh yeah, mental. So yeah, Dublin officially has a dad, I suppose, now. She's seen the run of the mill of all the frogs that we had to kiss first, but we finally got there. And yeah, next year I will just be continuing on to enjoy Dublin. I will just be listening to her, and as soon as she tells me she's had enough, we stop. We've obviously qualified for the VHS Supremes this year, which I'm buzzing about. I cannot believe it. I've even been able to order myself the Supreme coat, which is something I've wanted for 5 years because I could not get her qualified. So yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing for that. We'll obviously be vlogging all of that. I've got some plans over the winter that I'll be vlogging, and yeah, I can hope to continue doing what this is. I appreciate every single one of you that actually watches our videos. I do honestly mean it when I say I would have done this, and even if I'd kept my videos private, because realising that I didn't have anything from her working hunter career killed me. So I knew I needed to get the videos out there, and if anyone's thinking of doing it, do it. Just do it. Even now I'll watch videos from like 2 years ago, and it's amazing. So yes, that's pretty much mine and Dublin's life. 17 years of it crammed into a little video. There's probably things I've forgotten or not mentioned, but off the top of my head, trying to remember 17 years of your life is actually not easy. Any questions, pop them in below. Most of our previous few years is already on YouTube, and we will obviously continue to do YouTube. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.